Hi guys, it's me, Aaron. Welcome back to my little channel that we're going on here. So for today's look, as the video says, I'm going to do my inspiration for my favorite flower, which is the deadly nightshade, or belladonna for the scientific term. Adora belladonna, I believe is what it's called. But I always loved how deadly nightshades were because it's a very pretty flower, but at the same time, one of the most dangerous. So this look is going to be mixing in with some purples, some pinks, a little bit of fading. So let's get this started. So I'm going to be going in with my two sets of primers, which is the One Heck of a Blot primer from Soap and Glory that I just dropped like I'm an idiot. There we go. 1 second. I'm having it under a bed. Anyways, so we're going in with the One Heck of a Blot from Soap and Glory to help with my oil levels, which is mainly focused around my nose area. And then we are also going to be going in with the Rose primer from Wet n Wild Photo Focus, which is from the Rebel Rose collection. I think Revlon has one similar to this, which is the Rose Glow primer. So I might switch to that when I run out of it because, as you can see, she goes pretty quickly when you use it all the time. So I'm going to go in with the Rose primer first all over, and then going over the nose area with my One Heck of a Blot. And I'm using a Real Techniques buffing brush. Just a straight up buffing brush, and then just distributing that all along. And normally a lot of my makeups are almost generally the same style or the same techniques over and over, because really that's kind of like the only face I know to work with so far until I start expanding in different styles and techniques. But of course, I wish, hopefully at some point in time in my life, I can do what Nikki, Jeffrey, James do with like makeup and just having fun with it. Like, it would be a dream to one day be able to own and play with makeup and sort of sponsor. I mean, the one thing I think I consider myself is I am blessed and cursed with skin that doesn't necessarily have a problem with anything that I've ever used, because I've used everything from Wet n Wild, Elf, Maybelline, L'Oreal, CoverGirl, Physicians Formula. I mean, I've used everything that we've sold and from what other brands have sold. Like LA Colors, LA Girl, Joe Cosmetics from CVS, even though I work at Walgreens, but like I always told everyone and myself that if there's some makeup there that I just want to play with, I'm going to buy it regardless if it's brand loyal or not, or store loyal, because it's like, well, I want it. Now, if you do hear anything in the background, let me know. It's because I'm letting RuPaul playing in the background, so I have something to listen to, because the last two videos I did it on my computer, my way of doing it. So firstly, I'm going to go in with my shadow primer from Hard Candy, which is just your typical nude shade eye primer. Using a perfect concealing brush, I'm going to be dropping everything today, from Elf, to just distribute the product on my eyelids. And do forgive me, it is springtime, which means allergy attacks are going to be coming back in. So just a little amount. And just buffing that out along the lid up to the brow bone, since my shadows are going to go pretty much all over. Wait a second, let me move my light to where it's a little more. There we go. Now, of course, I probably said this before, but I was tired of maintaining my brows with like the tweezing, the threading, and whatever. And one day I just said, screw it. And I shaved them off. So now I gave myself more room to play with my eyes, because where my natural brows would start is like here. That didn't give me very much room to kind of play with. So I decided to keep them shaven off, so that way it gave me time to practice and actually draw my brows on better. So taking a little bit of Scotch tape. And just keeping it a good shape. And I'm going to start off using this little black rose brush from Wet n Wild. This is part of the Rebel Rose collection eyeshadow brushes. And for today's palettes, we're going to be playing with the NYX Ultimate Eye Palette, which is all their rainbow shades, and then the Soda Pop palette from Maybelline. So we're going to go in with like this little pink tone here, because we're going to have that as the color that spreads all over. Oh, wow. This is the first time I actually use this brush, because I already have one, but I wanted to keep it constantly cleaned. That's got some good impact. I'm impressed. Excuse me. Now, of course, this is just going to be the outer color, but we're giving ourselves a guideline. But it curves really nicely. And now we're going to take another fluffy brush. Like I have this whole bag of brushes I seep through every time. I'm going to keep this one out to buff out the edges. So we're going to use this Real Techniques eyeshadow buffing fluffy brush, and we're going to go in with the purple here, and we're going to work on the inner corner and define that crease a little. So I'm going to kind of go into a spoiler alert here, but so far I am really digging season 11 of Drag Race. I think these girls are amazing. Unfortunately, I was upset that one of my favorite girls was sent home. Yes. I actually really loved Ariel's style, even though everyone said she was kind of predictable. At the same time, I could see that, but when you really think on it, how else is a queen supposed to keep her brand if she can't do her style the most, you know? Oh yeah, with the Soda Pop palette, I went in with blue raspberry and grape pop here to kind of darken that crease a little, because we want this to be like stamped purple with a pink blown out. And using this Wet n Wild eyeshadow brush with no product on it, I'm going to sit here and sort of fuse and diffuse this pink and purple out. Because when I was thinking of a Deadly Nightshade, I didn't necessarily think the colors needed to be super bold or super pigmented, because really, it's like taking these two extravagant colors but fading it. And as you see, like now the pink is really kind of diffused out with that purple. But we're going to take a liquid eyeshadow and cut these creases along with using a liquid eyeshadow on the lid itself to really give it that sort of pizzazz. Because I want this to be really buff and faded out, but the lid to be sort of the eye catcher. Woo! I'm sitting on these pillows just so that way I could actually sit up. So what we're going to do is go in with my two favorite liquid eyeshadows, which is going to be Wet n Wild's Camelback with their Liquid Catsuit eyeshadows, and then Black Radiant's Lid Glitz in the shade Movie Star, which is this beautiful radiant pink. I have another that I have that's from Tarte, which is their Sea Glass liquid eyeshadow. And this shade is Night Drive, which is sort of similar, but this one's got a lot more iridescent in it, so I might add a little bit of that on top. So going in with this Wet n Wild flat eyeshadow brush, I'm going to take the Camelback and cut the crease from the inner corner up and around. This is going to help define that line, because I always love a really good cut crease nowadays. It's almost like my go-to thing that I do now. Thinking back, when I first started this shit back when I was working at Marco's and Walmart, I never thought how far this progress of mine would go. And now I'm actually I'm just impressed with how far I've come along with my journey. And I'm going to take this little packing brush from Elf and sort of work it in a little bit. So you see how it's kind of defined that outer line a little bit. And then going back with that same blending brush with the purple on it, I'm going to kind of there we go. And now with that same brush, actually, we're going to go in with another eyeshadow brush from Elf. I have like 4 of them that I use specifically just for these. Actually, I'm going to be using this Walgreens brand concealer brush. Where did I set that? There we are. And we're going to take the Movie Star and prop it on the lid. And taking that concealer brush and just sort of distributing it, making sure it's spread out evenly. I think these Black Radiant Beauty liquid eyeshadows have a great consistency to where they do not clump on the lid or dry your eyes out like a certain brand that I know. And for some of my friends that I work with, you know exactly which ones I'm talking about. Hoo-hoo. And then we're just going to highlight the inner corner so that way we make sure that the eyeshadow is packed down. So taking an e.l.f. blending brush, I'm going to go in with my highlighter palette from Physicians Formula in the warm nudes and taking this lightest shade in that corner up there. We're just going to sort of pack that on the lid or on that corner. And now, of course, it won't stay there for long because when I put my foundation and everything on, some of it might get a little mixed around, so I'm going to pack a different color on top of it later. Now on to the liner. So I've been falling in love with my two favorite liners, which is my Get In liner from CoverGirl in the shade Matte Black and my Master Precise All Day liner from Maybelline. I use this to generally start the shape, and then I fix the shape up using my liner because it works just like the tattoo liner from Kat Von D, I guarantee that. And then just going to fix that up. Now we're just going to take a bit of a packing brush here with a little bit of black eyeshadow from Maybelline from the Sky Night. I'm just going to set that so that way it keeps it from creasing because with it being liquids, and then voila. Though, of course, there's a little bit of like light fallout and a little bit of smudging from the liner, but once we start going over with that concealer, it'll clean it up nicely. All right. And then taking that same piece of tape, we're just going to do the same on the opposite eye. And then just to make sure there's a little more buffing. So we're just going to do the same side as the first. Really loving how this is looking so far. So far, so good. Unfortunately, I hate being quiet when I'm focused because then I'm not really giving much to talk about. But a lot of my makeup looks are sort of like inspirations from movies, songs, or just in general. Like if I see a drag queen do some really amazing makeup, I want to try to kind of replicate that in what I do. But but so far, so good. Yeah. And here's a little trick I'm gonna do also with this little angle liner. I'm going to take that same black and actually emphasize my crease a little on both sides. There we go. Okay. Liner, I swear, is like open heart surgery for makeup. Because it can go one way. So, and unfortunately, since I do have a hooded lid, I tend to overdraw my liner to where it looks really dramatic, but that's how. And I'm also just going to take a tiny precision brush in that same black and just sort of emphasize around that crease a little bit more.
It's really shocking to be this close to Miley, and it's really humbling actually because she seems genuinely excited about meeting us and getting to be part of this experience as we are to see her. Have a great song.
Okay. Now on to the brows. Always fun. So for the brows, I'm going in with my, wherever I sat down at. There's one. And there's two. And then we're going to do a little bit of a third for a little bit of emphasizing drama. So we're going to go in with these three brushes here, my brow gel brush, my shadow brush, and my color brush. You'll see. And I'm going in with my glory of my e.l.f. brow gel in the shade medium. And I just trace along the line of my shadow. That's pretty much my trick, is why I like doing my shadows first, because it gives me a guideline of where the brows would be at. Damn, that's good.
People at home, put your children in dance class immediately. I need to have that fun. She's really blonde. This ensemble is really Andrea's kind of dance. You're aware of it well. It's not confusing. Do you think this flower makes my people together?
And that's also a good thing when you do your stuff, or your brows and your eyes before your foundation. You can really kind of clean things up just by simply wiping it away. And it'll be easy enough to kind of set things in place. Now for the brown shadow I just use a regular shadow from Maybelline called Made in Mocha. It's a pretty simple dark brown shadow, or a mid-brown shadow. I wouldn't say it's like totally dark, but it's dark enough to where it's almost like my natural hairline color. And it just traces it and sets it in place. And then also when you do your foundation, it'll help clean up these edges even more. And quite honestly, if I had to make a assumption or a way to define what my makeup style is, I would just say it's just eclectic. Because I love trying to do different genres, different eras of makeup. Things from like the 20s to even things like natural to over the top or even simplistic. I want to show people that I can do multiple looks and I'm not just sort of tethered down into one certain box. There we go. Now they look a little more even. My right eye is a little heavier, so I have to kind of encompass making this a little bit bolder. This one I feel like is the best one. This one is actually a little laxed in my opinion. Okay, foundation. So I have to use 2 different foundations since I ran out of my Infallible Fresh. And unfortunately, the first one that I picked wasn't a good enough of a coverage. So I had to use 2 to kind of compensate that. Now if I could find that damn brush that I use. Of course, as soon as I need it, I can't find it. There she is. So I'm going in with Remmel's Lasting 25-Hour Breathable Foundation in the shade 101 Classic Ivory and Revlon's Candid Foundation in the shade 130, which is Ivory. So I'm going to go in with my Rimmel first since it's sort of a darker shade. It's a dark tan, almost like beige shade with a bit of an ivory shade that kind of cancel each other out to where it's a little more evened on my skin, even though really I don't care what my foundation skin tone is because I can work with just about almost everything and just bronze and highlight the hell and back. And both of these foundations on their own are a very good medium coverage, but it's not enough, in my opinion, to cover up on their own.
Next up, Akira C. And I think it's huge. The earrings are huge. It's a lot. But I don't know. I got excited when you walked around that corner. I'm a firm believer that we can build a career off too much. I've done it. There's some other people here that have done it. I look like you were all that here. You didn't just do 2 weeks. You didn't do just 3 weeks. You did 5 weeks. Thank you. Next up, Soji. Why exactly did you put well, so? It's a traditional Korean silhouette. Okay, that's lovely, but the tools you do with lace, tight knots, and back, it literally doesn't tell us the story. This is tough because you get one chance to show all of it. Something that intrigues and you don't know that you can at this level. It's been a rough journey getting here. I got diagnosed with meningitis, and I'm currently losing it. And then it popped in the pain right here. So it's just been a mess. I'm so sorry that I overshared. But can I tell you something? I've come to know who you are now. You're like a weird oversharer. I like that. With my experience done. Tell me more about that thing. Up next, Sadie's Long Diamond. I think you need to watch your makeup. White contrast with brown tones. What we're seeing is almost a mask top of your face. There's something kind of fun about this opportunity. I think I'm really slutty over at SeaWorld. We did look a little too much. The look isn't strong enough on its own. This is OTR. What's the OTR symbol? I'll put back. Up next, Turning. Vanessa Banji Mateo. Banji, you are the perfect example of why week 1 is so important. You have to show who you are on the runway. Because last year, you didn't. This is who Banji is. You seem a little nervous. Are you nervous? No, just anxious. Because last time I thought I was too soon, so I was sweating. A lot of personality that just this is how we can in a different way control it. You just feel like someone you want to get to know as a person, not just a guy who you really see what they're going to wear next week. I don't really care. I want to know what you're going to say next week.
And then just like that, the colors are blended out. And as you saw with the Wet n Wild foundation brush that I was using, it can easily help kind of clean these brows up a little. And now going in with my concealers, I'm going in with the Infallible in the shade 320 Porcelain, which is almost like their stark white. This is like almost like a knockoff version of both the Tarte's Shape Tape and the Kat Von D's in like their white color. And like I said in my last video, when you put your concealer on top of your foundation, it blends it out more. To whereas for just an instance, like with drag queens, when they do their Kryolan TV sticks or whatever shades they use, they'll do it in sections where they'll do the highlight in a section, their neutral tone in a section, and then their contours in a section to where they kind of blend and stay that same color. To whereas if you do it like how you do traditional makeup, where you just put the neutral tone down and then blending the contour and the highlights on top of it, they'll blend out a lot more seamlessly. Well, not seamlessly, but more into the same shade ranges rather than just sort of to where they just sort of keep the color stamped in that place so they could see it better on stage. There we go. And now we're going to go in my contour color, which is 390 Cedar from the same Infallible collection. I love that this concealer can work as a contour because all it takes is just 1, 2. And I'm using this little buffing brush from Mask. I'm just going to push it out. I mean, all it takes is 2 little drops and my cheek is contoured to the way I need it to. And then I use this little Real Techniques Mini Expert Face Brush. And I just sort of marry in between the contour and the highlight just to make sure there's a seamless blend. And I always say, I always like a bit of a cut cheek, but not so severe like a traditional drag queen would do for the stage so people could see. I want there to be at least some definition where it's not just a big blurred line. That's where it all started. Thinking on season 11 so far how Vanessa, Vanjie, and Brooklyn are now kind of a thing. And I'm wondering if it started with that whole, when Brooklyn won the first episode and she got that trip to Paris, Vanjie said, "Bitch, can I go with you?" Now I'm going to go on my nose contour. I'm going to take this little True Blend Fix Stick Concealer from CoverGirl in the shade Dark 5, 6, and 7 on a traditional contour flat edge contour brush. And I always like my contour on my nose to be pretty severe, so that way I can actually show it being pinched down. And then going with that same flat brush, foundation brush that has the concealer color. There we go. And then using whatever's left on my mask brush, I'm just going to kind of contour my forehead. And if there's not enough, then I'll just take whatever's. There we go. Now to set everything in place, I'm going to be using two different powders. Well, two different powders to work with this. But I'm going to be using my Naturally Neutral from Airspun to set the whole face because it gives it more of an even playing field, in my opinion. I used to use just the extra translucent coverage. That's great if you want to just set the face and not have anything. But I felt like it was not doing much for me. So I started using this Naturally Neutral to kind of set everything with an even playing field. Oh, hearing this song brings back so many memories growing up. It's The Best of Both Worlds by Hannah Montana from the first lip sync of 11. And you know what? I'll say it. I used to watch Hannah Montana and everything on Disney Channel. Even going through high school, I thought it was kind of cool. And I still think Miley's a really cool person, regardless of what people think, just because she finally grew up out of that Disney kid phase. And it's just like, oh God, if God forbid, if a girl like her does something adult, all of a sudden she's labeled as a bad person. You just grow up and get over it. And then taking this big fluffy brush, I'm just brushing off any of the excess powder. Just to fix up this brow a little bit because okay. Now on to the powders. Of course, I never grab anything out. This time I'm actually going to emphasize things a little more by using this Duo Contour and Highlight Powder from Wet n Wild in the shade Dolce de Leche, which is their lightest tone in my opinion. The other one's a little more on the warmer side, which is probably better for a darker tone skin. So I'm going in with my toothbrush. I'm going in with my two favorites, which are from Real Technique and Sleek. It's their sort of face contouring brushes. And then with my nose, it got a little out of hand, so I took this ultimate blending brush and just sort of buffed things out. Ooh, she got severe. All right, so for the center of the nose, since I kind of went a little too far, I'm taking this face contour brush from e.l.f. There we go.
Previously on RuPaul's Drag Race, using only the junk inside these chops. This is my first dress I'm making. Hey, what's up? It's Miley Cyrus. This is going to be the lace, there's giant knots in the back. Kahana on choose. How would you describe the brand? This is not a good brand. The lights. That's a light drop, bitch. That's all about. The winner of this week's challenge. Kahana on choose. Shantae Houston. So too. So she. Literally the hardest thing I've ever had to do. So true. I love all of you. We made it. Oh, sis. So, I want sex
And then for blushes, I'm going to go in with some of my traditionals, which is going to be my Color Mattes and Mauve. About 2 shades out of this, and then from Black Radiance, Raspberry.
I was disappointed that I didn't win this challenge. When we were talking, girls said that my dress was something that they would actually wear. Scarlet is delusional. Honestly, this is a beautiful dress, but with like Edward and I want to see tons of clothes. I can won the first challenge. I'm gonna cry. Let's go see the so of course she's meeting for the hardest of everyone. When you feel your own oats so hard, you forget that there are other oats there. And to discount anyone in this competition is a huge.
And now we're going to start cutting the cheeks by using my extra translucent powder with a powder puff. Oh God, I'm getting so lost in my head. Let that sit there a sec. I'm actually going to touch up that liner that kind of got lost in the concealer a little bit. There we go. And then what I'm going to do is take this big total face brush, or a face brush from e.l.f. with this raspberry, since it is a deeper color, so that way it doesn't shove it all in one spot. And now, when I said I was going to use this brush as my color brush, now it's about that time. I'm going to add a little emphasis drama into these brows. So I'm going to take that same pink and purple from the Ultra palette. And now we're going to do a little bit of the under eye. And I'm taking a little bit of my kohl liner. It's always a pain in the ass to do. All right, on to some highlighting. Goodness, I'm sitting here kind of dazing in and out of myself. Not good. So I'm going in with two of my besties, Physicians Formula Pearls in the shade Translucent Pearl, and the Strobe from Revolution Cosmetics in the shade Lunar. All right, now on to the lips. So for lips today, I found two good colors that were really close to what I used in my look, except I actually wanted to darken and emphasize these more to be a little bit more dramatic. So I'm using my lip liner from NYX Cosmetics in STFU because I really didn't want to say what it meant, especially in public. And then my 3 favorite shades, the Vinyl Vow lipstick from CoverGirl in the shade Own It, which is like this dark mauvey purple. And then this Oh My Goddess gloss from Almay in the shade Rainbow, which is like a real pink but a lot of blue undertones. So now I'm going to go in with my liner and just... And now on to my favorite, lashes. So I actually just made these. It's a custom pair of 251s, which have like the little straight edges and the real curved edges. So I just stacked them on top of these corset lashes. And then I'm using on the Kiss brush on adhesive. And I'm also going to take that same lip liner and try to fix up these corners a little. Where did I set it all? And then I'm using for mascara the Snap Mascara from Maybelline to push my lashes in together. And then just topping it off with a bit of NYX Badonkadonk. Yep. And then I would just use some setting spray and it would all be set in place. But this is pretty much my drama version of my Deadly Nightshade look. Really good purple lips, the blended out purples and pinks. All right. Well, I thank you guys for joining me, and hopefully I will see you guys next week. You know, honestly, I'm kind of giving myself a little Ariel Versace. Yes. Anyways, until next time, guys, love you, stay beautiful, and be beautiful and be you.